During the reading of my husband's will, my son whispered to the lawyers, "Just get her to sign. She won't understand any of this anyway." I heard every word. After 40 years building that gallery with my own hands, I was treated like a confused old woman. But what he didn't know is that his father had already left me everything that mattered. I was 68 the year my husband James died. People said I looked calm at the funeral, dignified. What they didn't know was that I had trained myself for decades to keep things together. I had raised our son Lucas while managing every inch of the art gallery. James and I started from nothing. I scheduled the exhibits, talked to the artists, handled all the invoices. James was the artist. I was everything else. And I loved it. I truly did. We opened the gallery in Santa Fe in 1983, back when the sidewalks were cracked and tourists only came in July. For 40 years, we built something that wasn't just a business. It was a space filled with life, expression, and the stories of dozens of creators. I wasn't just proud of the gallery. I was woven into it. Lucas had grown up between those walls. I still remember him as a boy, curling up under the front desk with his crayons while I managed client calls. He'd fallen in love with art right there on that tiled floor. So when James fell ill, I assumed Lucas would step in with care, not just for his father, but for the legacy we'd all shared. I thought he'd value what we had built. What I had built, I thought, wrong. That's the part that stings most in this kind of revenge story. It's not about money. It's about being erased from something you gave your whole life to, like you were just a temporary placeholder. James had promised time and time again that I would be taken care of. He said it in passing, over dinner, in bed, in letters. So I never doubted it, until that morning at the lawyer's office when Lucas leaned in, smirked, and whispered as if I didn't exist. "Just get her to sign. She won't understand any of this anyway." I kept my hands folded on my lap, the same way I used to during gallery openings, poised, unshaken. But inside, something cracked, and that's where everything began. The conference room was quiet, too quiet. Mr. Lambert, our longtime family lawyer, adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat as he opened the will. Lucas sat on my left, legs crossed, like he was bored at a business meeting. His wife Mallory scrolled her phone without shame. I folded my hands tightly in my lap and kept my eyes forward, just like I used to during gallery reviews, when clients criticized artists I believed in. "As per the wishes of the late Mr. James Jennings," Mr. Lambert began, "the gallery and all related assets, including the building, trademarks, and public inventory, will transfer to Mr. Lucas Jennings." There was a pause. Not for my reaction, no one looked at me, but because Mallory finally put down her phone. "The remaining estate," he continued, "will be distributed as follows: a lump sum of $80,000 to Mrs. Carol Jennings, to use at her discretion." That was it. No mention of my name tied to the gallery. No mention of the artwork I had archived, restored, even hand-hung one by one over the years. Not even a chair with my name on it. Just $80,000 and silence. I opened my mouth to speak, but before a word could escape, Lucas leaned toward the lawyer and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "Just get her to sign. She's sentimental, but she'll go quietly." I looked at my son, really looked. The baby I had nursed, the boy who used to beg me to stay 5 more minutes at bedtime. Now, all grown up, he couldn't even meet my eyes. And still, I didn't cry. Not in front of them. You know, there's a pain that doesn't scream. It just hollows you out. And I wonder, have any of you ever felt that kind of pain? Let me know in the comments if you've ever been in a room where people talked about you like you weren't there, like you didn't matter. I read your stories. I really do. It helps me feel a little less invisible. Back in that room, Mr. Lambert pushed a packet of documents toward me. "All standard," he said gently, like I was fragile. Lucas gave me a smile like someone patting a dog on the head. I didn't smile back. Instead, I said something no one expected. "I won't sign today." Lucas blinked. "Why not?" "I'd like to read it first," I said. lifting the packet. After all, it's my life on these pages. And in that moment, the air changed. No one said it aloud, but they knew. The old woman wasn't going quietly. The gallery was already being rearranged by the time I stopped by that weekend. My gallery. I hadn't signed anything. I'd made that clear. But that didn't stop Lucas. He'd brought in decorators, stripped the warm lighting James and I had spent years perfecting, and replaced it with cold, industrial fixtures. It felt like walking into a clinic, not a place where art should live. I stood near the entrance, invisible. Mallory was in the back, barking orders about rebranding and cleaner lines. Someone was hauling out the old oak bench James made with his own hands. That bench used to sit under the skylight, where visitors would sit quietly, just to take it all in. No one even looked at me as it was wheeled past. I stepped closer to the wall where the founder's corner used to be. Our black and white photo with James holding up his first canvas, and me smiling beside him, a paintbrush tucked behind my ear, gone. Replaced with a quote about next-generation creativity, Lucas's name at the bottom. Mine nowhere. The space that had once smelled of wood, canvas, and lavender from the diffuser I kept behind the counter now reeked of latex paint and ambition. Lucas came out from the office, clipboard in hand. "Hey, Mom, didn't know you were stopping by." I could tell he meant it. "I wanted to check in," I said softly. "I thought I still had access here." He gave a polite chuckle. "Of course. You'll always be welcome here. Just things are moving fast. We're modernizing. Mallory has a whole vision. A whole vision, built on the bones of mine." "I see," I nodded. "And where are my pieces? The ones I curated for the Southwest collection?" He paused. "We're thinking of liquidating those. They're not exactly marketable anymore." My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. Not in front of him, not here. I walked out slowly, past the bench, past the photo that used to hold our history, past the new logo on the door that said, Jennings Modern. When I got to my car, I sat quietly and looked back at the building. I couldn't help but feel like I was staring at my own erasure. 40 years of my life, and now I was just a guest. They didn't take a thing by force. They just made me feel like I no longer belonged. And that is how you disappear. It started with a squeaky drawer in the guest bedroom. I was looking for old packing tape. Lucas had asked if I could start boxing up a few sentimental things since the gallery was being streamlined. The way he said it, like he was doing me a favor, made me want to throw the tape at the wall. Instead, I opened the bottom drawer of James's old desk, the one we'd moved home from the gallery years ago when he stopped working late nights. And there it was, a brown envelope with my name written in his handwriting. Not Carol, like he usually called me, but CJ. That was James's code. He only used initials when something mattered. I opened it carefully. Inside were papers, thick, official-looking, and on top a small yellow Post-it note, in case our boy forgets what this place was built on. My hands shook as I scanned the documents. They weren't just old records. They were legal papers, a transfer of intellectual property and brand rights, the gallery name, the legacy, the archive, all reassigned to me. Signed and notarized 3 years before James passed. I blinked. Then I found the second envelope, a list of works, the gallery's most valuable pieces, itemized, boxed, and marked with a storage unit number, all under my name. My name. I couldn't breathe. James had known. Somehow, he'd known. Maybe not the full extent of what Lucas would do, but he'd sensed enough. Enough to protect me. Enough to protect what we built. There was also a name and phone number scribbled on the last page. Walter Ellis, with "Trust him, he owes us" underneath. I remembered Walter, James's friend from way back, a quiet lawyer with an eye for modern art and a backbone made of steel. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch in my robe, the documents spread across the coffee table, a mug of tea long gone cold. But I didn't feel tired. I felt something else I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. I felt awake. This wasn't just about property or paperwork. It was about the soul of what I gave my life to. And I realized I hadn't lost everything. Lucas may have taken the walls, the paint, the light fixtures, but James had left me the soul, and that changed everything. The studio was smaller, tucked behind a pottery shop on the quieter side of town. No grand opening, no ribbon cutting, just me, a fresh coat of white paint, and the faint smell of turpentine. Walter Ellis had come through just like James promised. He helped me file the paperwork to reinstate the original gallery name, the real one, the one we built. I had the rights. Lucas had the building, sure. But the story, the artists, the collectors who cared, they came with me. I started slow. I reached out to 3 painters who'd shown with us for decades. Artists who remembered the tiny opening receptions I'd hosted with homemade lemonade and folding chairs. I didn't even have to explain. One of them said, "Carol, I've been waiting for your call since the day I saw Lucas on the cover of that arts magazine pretending you never existed." We filled the space with color, with truth. Not the sleek, lifeless stuff Lucas was pushing, but art that felt like something. And the community? They noticed. Old clients started showing up again, almost sheepish, as if they'd betrayed me just by walking into Lucas's showroom. "Sorry we didn't reach out," one woman whispered, touching my arm. I smiled. "You're here now. That's what matters." I didn't advertise. I didn't blast my story on social media. I didn't need to. The right people found me. One afternoon, I passed by Lucas's Jennings Modern on my way to the hardware store. The windows were filled with flashy posters and rental decor, but inside, empty. A young woman at the desk scrolled her phone while 2 guests peeked around, uninterested. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was clarity. Lucas had taken the shell, but I had the heart, and hearts have a way of beating louder, even when no one's paying attention. I went home that night and stood in front of a blank canvas I hadn't touched in years. My old brushes, cleaned and waiting, sat beside it. I dipped into the first color without hesitation. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine. It was about rediscovering who I was. When no one was watching, no one was clapping, and no one was stealing my work. That kind of peace, it's quiet and deeply earned. Spring rolled in quietly that year. I opened the doors of the new gallery every morning with a sense of rhythm I hadn't felt in years. Not just routine, purpose. I brewed coffee, watered the little succulents on the windowsill, adjusted lighting on the new installations. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, but it was mine. One morning, Lucas showed up. I saw his car pull up from the studio window. He hesitated at the door, then walked in, the bell chiming like it used to when he was a boy running in after school, smelling like crayons and dust. I didn't say anything. I waited. He looked around slowly, at the work, the walls, the small crowd of visitors murmuring softly near the back. Then he turned to me. "This is good," he said, like it hurt to admit it. "It's honest," I replied, not smiling. He shifted his weight. "You could have told me." "And you could have asked," I said. There was a long pause. He glanced at a painting near the back, one he used to stare at as a kid. "I didn't know Dad did all that paperwork." "He didn't do it behind your back, Lucas," I said, voice steady. "He did it behind the version of you he no longer trusted." He looked away. I didn't expect an apology, and he didn't offer one. As he left, a young girl walked in with her mother. They were first-timers, and as I welcomed them, I caught a glimpse of Lucas through the window, standing outside a moment longer before finally driving off. I never saw him step into my new gallery again, and that's okay. Some people think closure comes with confrontation, but for women like us, who've been sidelined, silenced, erased, closure is something quieter. It's waking up one day and realizing I'm not waiting anymore. Now I paint in the afternoons. I host monthly meetups for young women starting out in the arts. I get letters from past clients saying they remember my voice more than the exhibits themselves. James was right. The soul of the gallery wasn't in the bricks. It was in me. If you've ever been written off, overlooked, or told your time has passed, I hope this story reminded you it hasn't. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to reclaim your space, your voice, or your worth in silence? I'd love to hear your story.